The metal is cold in his hands, freezing cold. January in North Africa, 1942, and the British sapper crouches in the dark, fingers trembling, not from fear, though there's plenty of that, but from the simple physics of steel at night in the desert. He's probing the sand with a bayonet, inches at a time, listening for the scrape, the tap, the sound that means he's found one. Behind him, 30 men wait in silence. Ahead of him, somewhere in the next 100 yards, there are mines, hundreds of them, buried by Rommel's engineers in patterns no one can predict. The sapper pushes the blade forward. Sand hisses. He angles it left, taps something hard. His breathing stops. Could be a rock. Could be a canteen someone dropped. Could be a teller mine packed with 11 pounds of TNT. He pulls the bayonet back, tries again, 6 inches to the right. Same result. Hard object, metallic sound. But here's what makes his jaw clench, what makes the sweat run cold down his spine despite the night chill. He can't tell which it is. Why were British soldiers dying in minefields they'd already cleared? By the end of this story, you'll know how one mechanic's illegal invention, built from cookware and scraps in direct violation of military orders, became the only reason thousands of men made it through the Devil's Garden alive. But first, you need to understand what was killing them. North Africa. Late 1941, early 1942. The war in the desert is unlike anything the British Army has prepared for. No trenches, no forests, just sand, rock, and space, thousands of square miles of it, and the only thing that matters is movement. Tanks, supplies, airfields. Whoever controls the roads controls the war. Erwin Rommel understands this perfectly. The German commander, already being called the Desert Fox by friend and enemy alike, has turned minefields into weapons of pure geometry. Not defensive lines, not barriers, traps. He lays mines in clusters, in false patterns, in gaps that look safe until you're halfway through. His engineers bury them at night, cover them by dawn, and by the time British scouts find them, they're already in them. And the British have no answer. Their engineers, sappers they're called, use the only method anyone's been trained for: manual probing. A man crawls forward on his stomach, slides a bayonet into the ground at a shallow angle, and feels for resistance. If he finds a mine, he marks it, disarms it, or blows it in place. If he finds it. The problem is the teller mine. German engineers bury them just beneath the surface, sometimes 4 inches down, sometimes 6. The pressure plate on top requires 300 pounds to detonate, heavy enough that a man can step on one and live, light enough that a jeep will set it off every time. But the casing is steel, and in 1942 the British Army is still issuing non-metallic detectors, instruments designed to find mines by detecting changes in soil density, not metal. They work, technically, in training, on flat ground, in England, in North Africa, where the sand shifts daily and the ground is littered with shrapnel, shell fragments, and the rusted trash of 2 armies. They find everything except mines. So the sappers go back to bayonets, and they die. Not all at once, not in explosions, though that happens too. Mostly, they die slow. A sapper spends 4 hours crawling 100 yards, clears a lane, marks it with white tape, and waves the convoy through. 2 days later, a truck hits a mine in the same lane. Investigators go back, find 3 more mines the sapper missed, buried in a triangle pattern around the one he found. He didn't miss them because he was careless. He missed them because a bayonet is 8 inches long and he was probing a corridor 10 feet wide, and the mathematics of that are simple. You can't check every square inch of sand with a blade, not if you want to clear the minefield before Rommel moves again. The British need a metal detector that actually works in combat. But military doctrine in 1942 is very, very clear. Electronic mine detectors are experimental technology, and experimental technology doesn't go to the front until it's been tested, proven, and approved by the War Office in London. The approval process takes months. The sappers don't have months. What they didn't realize yet was that the solution was already in North Africa, not in a lab, not in a manual, in a workshop tent behind the lines where a Polish lieutenant was tearing apart kitchen equipment with a screwdriver and a theory. Józef Kosacki is 34 years old. He's a signals officer, communications, radio repair, technical work, and he's been obsessed with landmine detection since 1941, back when he was still in Britain. The Army gave him time to experiment. He built prototypes, tested coils, frequencies, battery configurations. By the time his unit shipped to North Africa, he had a working design. Not approved, not official. Working. The device is absurd to look at. A wooden pole, a flat circular coil at the end, about the size of a dinner plate. A battery pack strapped to the operator's chest. Headphones. The whole thing weighs 30 pounds and looks like it was assembled in a garage, because it was. Here's how it works. The coil generates a low-frequency electromagnetic field. When the field passes over metal, any metal, it disrupts the current. That disruption creates a tone in the headphones. High-pitched whine for ferrous metal, dull hum for non-ferrous. The operator sweeps the coil side to side, listens for the change, and stops when he hears it. Simple physics, simple construction, completely against regulations. The British Army in 1942 does not let officers invent their own equipment. There are reasons for this. Good reasons. Standardization, supply chains, accountability. If every mechanic in every unit starts building custom tools, you get chaos. You get devices that fail in the field, that injure the men using them, that require parts no one else has. You get liability. Kosacki doesn't care. He's watched sappers die. He's watched engineers probe the same stretch of sand 3 times and still miss mines. He knows his detector works because he's tested it on German mines, on British mines, on buried scrap metal in every condition the desert can throw at him. So he starts building more, not 1 or 2, dozens. He pulls parts from broken radios, cannibalizes batteries from damaged equipment. The coil frames, those dinner plate circles, he makes from whatever metal he can scavenge. Some reports say he used biscuit tins. Others say cookware, mess kits, anything thin and circular. The story that survives is that he cut up spoons. Whether that's true or myth doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that by early 1942, Kosacki has a stockpile of detectors, and British engineers are starting to hear about them. Not through official channels, through rumor. The first field test happens quietly. A sapper unit clearing a road outside Tobruk asks to borrow one of Kosacki's detectors. Just to try. Just to see if it's faster than bayonets. They clear the minefield in a third of the time. No casualties, no missed mines. If you like these forgotten World War II innovations, hit like and subscribe for more stories the history books skip. Word spreads. Within weeks, sappers across the 8th Army are requesting the detectors. Kosaki's workshop can't keep up. He trains other mechanics to build them. He writes instructions, hand-drawn diagrams, notes in broken English, and distributes them to any unit that asks. The devices start appearing everywhere, unofficial, unlogged, built from scrap and desperation. And then the War Office finds out. You have to understand. In 1942, the British military is fighting a war on 3 continents, managing millions of men, coordinating supply lines that stretch from London to Cairo. They do not have time for improvisation. When reports reach headquarters that Polish mechanics are distributing homemade mine detectors without authorization, the response is immediate. Stop. Orders come down. The detectors are to be recalled, tested properly, evaluated by engineers in controlled settings. If they pass inspection, they'll be issued through proper supply channels. Until then, they are not to be used in combat. The sappers ignore the orders, not loudly, not publicly. They just keep using the detectors because the detectors keep them alive, and staying alive matters more than paperwork. Commanders in the field start making quiet decisions. They file reports that don't mention the devices. They look the other way when sappers carry them. They understand something the War Office doesn't. Doctrine is written in peacetime. War is fought in sand. But there's a cost to using unproven technology. And in June 1942, the British are about to learn what it is. El Alamein, October 1942. The defensive line that will decide North Africa. Rommel has fortified it with the largest minefield ever laid in warfare, 500,000 mines across a front, 40 miles wide. The British call it the Devil's Garden. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery is planning the offensive. He knows his infantry can't cross the minefields without the sappers. He knows the sappers can't clear the minefields with bayonets. He needs Kosaki's detectors. By now, the War Office has quietly reversed its position. The detectors work. Everyone knows they work. In September 1942, the design is officially adopted. Renamed the Polish mine detector Mark I, rushed into mass production. But production takes time, and Montgomery doesn't have time. So the 8th Army goes into El Alamein with a mix. Some units carry factory-made detectors. Some carry Kosaki's originals. Some carry crude copies built by field mechanics who learned the design secondhand. They all sound slightly different. They all weigh slightly different amounts. Some have better batteries. Some have coils that crack in the heat. None of them are perfect, but on the night of October 23, 1942, when the barrage lifts and the sappers move forward into the Devil's Garden, every single one of them is sweeping with a detector in their hands. The metal is cold. The sapper, let's call him what he is now, a man with a name, a man who wants to survive the night, adjusts the headphones and steps forward. The detector hums. Low, steady tone. He sweeps left, sweeps right. The hum spikes. He stops, kneels, brushes sand away with his fingers. Teller mine. Pressure plate facing up, exactly where the bayonet would have missed it. He marks it with tape, moves forward. 3 steps later, the hum spikes again. Another mine. He's finding them faster than he can mark them. The lane that would have taken 4 hours with a bayonet, he clears it in 40 minutes. Behind him, the infantry moves up. Tanks follow. The corridor holds. No one steps on a mine that night in his sector. No one dies because he missed one. The Battle of El Alamein lasts 12 days. British sappers clear over 1,000 lanes through the Devil's Garden. Casualties among the engineers are heavy. Rommel's artillery targets them specifically, and some minefields are so dense that even the detectors can't find them all. But the lanes hold. The tanks get through. Montgomery breaks Rommel's line, and the Africa Corps begins the long retreat that will end in Tunisia. After the battle, investigators calculate that Kosaki's detector reduced sapper casualties by over 60% compared to manual probing. 60%. Thousands of men who would have died in the sand went home because a Polish mechanic violated regulations and built the tool the Army said he wasn't allowed to build. The Polish mine detector Mark I was used for the rest of the war. It cleared mines in Italy, in France, on the beaches at Normandy. By 1945, over 10,000 had been produced, and the design, Kosaki's design, the one built from scrap metal and kitchen utensils in a tent behind the lines, became the template for every military mine detector that followed. Józef Kosacki received no royalties, no significant recognition during his lifetime. He survived the war, moved to England, worked as an engineer, and died in 1990, largely forgotten outside of specialist histories. But the men who walk through the Devil's Garden remembered. They remembered the hum in the headphones, the weight of the pole, the moment the tone changed, and they knew there was metal beneath the sand. War doesn't care about regulations. War cares about what works. And sometimes the only thing standing between survival and catastrophe is the mechanic who breaks the rules because he understands that saving lives matters more than following orders.